if you've got a group of friends, you're trying to influence them. What about your wife or your husband? What about your kids? Same thing. You're going to use leadership skills to try and influence them to go in the right direction.
You're a leader. You have to be able to use leadership principles to influence people, to align people.
So yes, if you interact with other human beings, you need leadership skills, 100%. When people do that, they get that crowd support.
And that question of what's the most important quality is a pretty easy one to answer, and that is one of the questions we hear a ton is what's the most important quality in a person, in a leader? And by leader, we mean someone at any level of the organization. And I love how you define leader, that it's if you interact with another human being in any capacity, you're a leader. You have to be able to use leadership principles to influence people, to align people, so that you can actually accomplish your mission and win, whatever that may be in your professional, personal life.
Yeah, look at the Marine Corps. You hear those Marines that are like, if there's two Marines in a room, one of them is the senior man. And you don't have to go that extreme, but if you've got a group of friends and there's three of you, you're trying to influence them to do better or do the right thing or move in the right direction. So yeah, what about your wife or your husband? If you're married, like your spouse, that's a leadership situation that you're going to use leadership skills to try and influence them to go in the right direction or try and understand their perspective. Like that's what you're doing. What about your kids? Same thing. You're in a leadership position. Do you think like I'm the leader of these children? Kind of think that a little bit, but also you're the dad or you're the mom. So you got to figure out these things, and they all come down to these same skills that you're using to try and move people in the right direction. So yes, if you interact with other human beings, you need leadership skills, 100%.
The common denominator amongst people that are struggling, people that are not successful, people that are burning bridges and don't get the support they need from others. When we start pulling the thread on a problem with a client that we work with at Echelon Front, if they come in and they bring us in to their company to work with them and try to help them solve problems, and when we start pulling the thread on the problem, at the end of that thread, there's almost always an ego issue. Someone's got an ego issue. They're letting their ego get out of control. And when egos start flaring, people don't make good decisions. People cause frictional relationships and antagonistic relationships, and it doesn't work, and it causes all kinds of problems. And I think that's such a common denominator for so many problems that we see. And that question of what's the most important quality is a pretty easy one to answer, and that is humility.
Yeah, because if you got a big ego, you don't listen to anybody else, you don't learn, right? We dealt with this in the SEAL teams. You get someone that's rolling through with a big ego, and they can't put it in check for even a minute. And let's say they mess up during an operation and you go up afterwards and say, hey, what happened over there? And they say, well, Fred didn't clear his corner the way he was supposed to. And they don't take any ownership of it because they're not humble enough to say, yeah, you know what? I did a bad job entering that room. I did a bad job with my clearance. It messed up Fred. They don't say that. They said, no, it was everybody else's fault. So what does that mean? That means they don't change anything that they're doing, and they're never going to improve. They're never going to get better. They don't take any advice. And it's just, they can't learn. They can't progress. Those are the people that we had to fire. Running SEAL training, not the basic SEAL training, but running advanced SEAL training, when we had to fire somebody, we had to fire people that were arrogant because they couldn't listen. Because if you listen, you're going to learn. You're going to make adjustments. You're going to change the way you're doing things so that they work correctly. But if you already think you know everything, you're not going to listen to anybody else. You're going to keep doing things the same way. And when they don't work, you keep doing them the same way that doesn't work. And you end up having to get fired. And it's terrible to have to fire someone. You don't want to do that, but it happens. So there's that whole piece of arrogance and having a big ego that hurts you. But there's two more major components that I'll tell you makes it horrible to have a big ego. The first one being no one likes you. I don't talk about this very often, but think about it. When someone is arrogant, no one likes you. That's what happens. Look at when somebody wins a championship in sports, right? Whether it's an individual, it's a team, and if someone gets out and they put the microphone in front of their face and they act arrogant, everybody just kind of is a little bit subconsciously disgusted by them.
When they just go full Ricky Bobby from Talladega Nights.
Exactly.
I'm just a big, hairy American wind machine.
When people do that, when they don't give credit to anybody else, when they say, yeah, I deserve this. This is what I worked to be here. And they say those things. And look, there's different levels. But when someone gets up there and they're humble, they get that crowd support. And you can just see that that's the way human beings are. When someone is arrogant, they're not liked. When someone's humble, people like them. How many people, when you see the flashy guy driving down with the big gold watch and all the greased back hair in his brand new G-Wagon, and he's flaunting, how many people are like, oh yeah, that guy seems awesome. I really want to hang around with that guy. No, the normal people don't like that guy. Right? Normal people, they see someone being flashy, being arrogant, walking in. What's the classic thing that people say? Do you know who I am? If someone catches a video of you saying that, they take that and they put it on the internet and everyone says, look at what a jerk this person is. That is all stemmed from ego and arrogance. So when you're in a leadership position and you're arrogant, you have a big ego, people don't like you. And look, I learned this in the SEAL team. I wrote about it in Leadership Strategy and Tactics. I had a SEAL platoon commander. He was arrogant, giant ego. We all hated him. We got him fired. Why did we get him fired? Did we get him fired because he didn't know how to shoot his weapon? No. Did we get him fired because he didn't come up with the best plans? No. We got him fired because he didn't listen. He was arrogant. And we didn't like him. Because you know the deal in the SEAL teams, in a SEAL platoon, guy makes a mistake. Hey man, you can't do that. If a guy is arrogant, has a big ego and making mistakes, the knives come out. The sharks are in the water. So I'm kind of calling it the way I see it and just letting people know, if you have a big ego, people don't like you. Now, here's the real problem in everything I just said. People that have a big ego, they think they're smart and they think no one can see what they're doing. They don't have self-awareness. That's why they're acting that way. And since they have a big ego, they think they can get away with it. They think no one will notice that they didn't show up to do the hard work. They'll think that nobody noticed that they left early when everyone else was putting in extra hours. They think that no one will notice that when they had to fill out their evaluations, they made themselves look great and they made the team look okay. That's what happens. And people think that no one sees it. Arrogant people think that they're smarter than everybody else and no one can see what they're doing. And everyone can see what they're doing. It's so blatantly obvious. So those are, look, the common things that we talk about at Echelon Front when someone has a big ego and why having humility is the most important characteristic. Yes, you can't listen. Yes, you don't evolve. Yes, you think you have all the best ideas and you don't take any input from someone else. Yes, you underestimate the competitor that you're up against. All those things are true, but I'm going to give you some brass tacks. If you're arrogant, people don't like you. That's what's happening. And most of the time, when you're arrogant, you don't even know it. That's why people that are arrogant and have a big ego, they go through life not being liked, and in often cases, they don't even know that that's happening. So, be humble. Most important characteristic of a leader. And if you think right now that I'm not talking to you, there's a really good chance you're the person I'm absolutely talking to. Get humble.
I remember back in Tasking a Bruiser, there was a call put out to give you a birthday beatdown. I was like, yeah, man, even if we get the best of Jocko, you realize like we have to let him up at some point, right, too?